Welcome to Autistic People Talking, a podcast where autistic people talk. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Autistic People Talking, a podcast where autistic people talk. My name is Claire, and this is my channel, Woodshed Theory. Here, I make content about what it is like to live as an adult on the autism spectrum and whatever else feels good to me. So if that sounds good to you, or if you're feeling particularly gracious today, and I hope that you are, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, ring the bell. I almost forgot to mention that I put out videos a few times a week, so click the like and the share. Welcome, one and all, to everyone's favorite podcast. I don't know that. I don't know that. One of my favorite things to do, Autistic People Talking. And it's a podcast where I invite a guest on who is also on the autism spectrum, and we have a chat about them, about life, and we just have a nice time. Today, we have a very special guest, a longtime friend of mine, Niese from Freehandly Made, and she has a YouTube channel where she shares about her autism journey and also about yarn arts and crafts, which, if you cannot tell, and if you're new here, I have a similar interest in. So, just so everyone knows who's listening and not watching, we did not plan our matching outfits today, but we're super excited about it. We're wearing exactly the same thing. So, Niese, welcome to the show, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why do you think you're here?
Hello, everyone. And let me first start off by saying I have my porch chat cup.
We're twins.
We totally did not plan this. I promise y'all.
It's so good.
Yes, I'm Mug Club number 21. Just so everybody knows.
It's made my day. It's made my day.
I guess I am here because Claire invited me here. She's been following me for a while now. Wow, time flies. And
A few years, Niese.
It has. It's crazy how time flies. It's just crazy. Anyhow, she invited me here to be on her podcast. And I love this podcast, Claire. I look forward to it every week.
And now you're on it.
And now I'm on it. It's really crazy. I am a late diagnosed autistic. When I say late, I mean late. I was 43 when I was diagnosed, and I started off my channel just sharing the journey we were going through with our son at first, and then it turned into a journey for me. Quick-a-dink. And my first couple of videos I did was like 5 years ago, I think, Claire. And then I didn't know how YouTube worked. I had no clue. And I don't know, life happened. And I hadn't posted in over a year, maybe even 2 years. And then my sissy-in-law launched me back into the YouTube streets with a surprise interview on her live. I had no idea she was going to do that to me. I thought I was just there just
Oh,
to
wow.
And all of a sudden, she started asking me questions, Claire. I don't answer questions well. But yeah, she snuck me on her live, and that was it. I've been on YouTube ever since, just sharing my special interests and talking about my experience as a late diagnosed autistic, and that's it. So I guess I'm here because Claire has questions.
Well, I'm really excited because obviously, if you guys are here and you like my channel, you could walk over to Niese's channel because we're wearing the same thing and we talk about the same stuff and we like the same things. So it's just a no-brainer to go get more content over at Niese's channel.
We actually started bonding and becoming friends just because I resonated and totally what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Anyway, a lot of the things that she was sharing, I was like, oh, that's me. Oh, that's
Mhm.
me too. And that's me. Oh, I did that in school. And that's where it started. And then she did a video on yarn and she showed some stuff she made. And I said, "Oh, you're a closet crocheter. Girl, why didn't you say anything?" And that was it. It was love after that. We
Aw,
bonded over fiber arts.
love you too, girl. Yeah, and I remember, we've kind of been on our fiber arts journey together. We were both kind of beginners when we started, and I remember you, doing, like, your first amigurumi dragon
Yeah.
and being so
Yeah.
excited, and look at you now. I feel like now, if I if I have the right instructions, I could crochet anything I wanted. Like, there's nothing out there where I'm like, "That looks a little too complicated." I feel like we could do whatever we want. You're doing your mosaic blanket now, and
I
we've come a
am. And
long way.
I'm also getting ready to do some Tunisian tonight.
I'm so proud of you. Teach me.
I will. Girl, I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I even got hooks and everything. I'm set.
You should have seen me when I was, speaking of special interests, this might be a little bit different on the podcast, people, but we're gonna do what we do here. So, I recently blocked my shawl that I made, and I ordered the special blocking pins for it,
Heck,
and I was
do you like
so
them?
pumped. Like, I even, like, saved it, it was kinda getting later, and I was like, "I could do it now, or I could wait until tomorrow morning and just have a few more hours where I'm looking forward to it." That's I love it so much.
I
Okay.
love my blocking pens. I love them.
The ones that
They
are,
make
like, a few at
yes,
once,
yes,
game changer. If
they
you don't know
are.
what blocking is, it's when you get something that you make out of knit or crochet wet, and then you stretch the whole thing out and pin it down so that when it dries, it stays that way. So it
Yes,
stays in that shape. I know a lot of people listening don't know all the lingo,
that's true.
so let's start with a few questions, see where we get to. So, as far as your experience with autism, you shared a little bit. When did you become aware of your condition? I know you said you were 43 when you were diagnosed,
Mhm. I was
uh,
43.
but kind of go into when did you kind of figure it out? What was that like? And how did you feel about that when it was happening?
I always knew that something was going on. I knew that I was different. Is different the word I wanna use?
I
I
get what
hate
you're
the word
saying, but I know that
yeah.
it's not quite the
I
right word.
felt I felt like an outsider always looking in windows, kinda sorta, even though I was within a group, like a wallflower almost. And I remember it distinctly like it was yesterday. I came in from school, I was wearing my MC Hammer rayon pants, and, my dad looked at me, and he's like, "Who are you this time? Why do you always change what you're wearing? You're different people constantly. What is that about? Are you just struggling to fit in?" And
Thanks,
I'm
dad.
like, I don't know." He's like, "I want you to be authentic. I want you to find who you are." My dad was worried about me
Yeah,
because he saw me changing who I was depending on who I was hanging out with.
yeah,
Well, I didn't realize that that's called masking.
right, yeah,
I didn't realize that that was being a master chameleon. I just wanted to be like everyone else, and I was struggling to just survive high school, man.
yeah, high school is rough.
And,
Undiagnosed high school is rough.
I had one moment where I was being myself, and that is and my friends that I still talk to today from high school always remind me of this, and especially after they found out my diagnosis, they were like, "Oh, it all makes so much sense now." It was my senior year, and I'm like, "It's my senior year. I'm gonna do what I want, and if they like me, they like me. If they don't, they don't." Kid you not, I went to a deadhead shop. This is when I lived in, Central New York, and I bought a peasant dress that was hand dyed, and
Cool.
I wore it to school. with my platform, Doc Martin, uh, sandals, the what do you call those? Mary Jane sandals with the
Oh,
platform heel.
yeah.
Girl, I had a pair of those. Yes, I did. And I wore those with my peasant girl tie-dye dress and walked to school in it. And this friend of mine, his name was Rob. I always sat with him in the hall and we always shared a Snickers bar together. And he looked at me and he's like, "Nice to meet you, my friend. Only you get
Whoa.
away with wearing something like that." He always supported me no matter what, but he was very proud of me at that moment.
Whoa.
Um, yeah, I wish he was still with us, but he's not. But yes, so I I always would just try to blend in, but my senior year, I was like done. I was over it,
Mhm.
and I wore a lot of tie-dye to school.
That's interesting. I have a very similar I think I have a very similar, story to you in that later in high school, I was like, "I'm just gonna be, do what I want, wear what I want." In some ways, I feel like I was still masking because I was still trying to fit in with a different group. But I really struggled to wear anything that matched, actually. I wore a
Me
lot of
too.
mismatched clothing. Um,
Yeah.
Basically, anytime we left the house, my mom would be like, "Okay." Uh,
I mean, that's why I love tie-dye because tie-dye matches everything.
yeah, that's so
Right, because 'Cause
funny.
it's got all the different colors in it. No, but I masked all the way through into my late adulthood to the point, Claire, where, I had what my therapist called at the time an identity crisis.
Yeah,
I was severely depressed and, because I didn't know who I was, and I will never forget when, after we were done getting my son assessed and his therapist asked to assess me and my husband and I agreed to being assessed. Um, the very first question he asked me, he's like, "Tell me what you like." I couldn't even tell him what I liked.
yeah, it's sad.
I couldn't tell him because I didn't know. I had
Mhm,
no clue. I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean, what do I like? Be more specific. That's too vague for me."
mm,
He's like, "Okay, well, how do you like your eggs?" I couldn't tell him how I liked my eggs. Like, it's stuff like that. And, it was definitely a long journey for me. But I will tell you when I did get my diagnosis, I have a multiple diagnoses. I have I'm autistic, I have severe ADHD, and, I have, um, some depression, and I have anxiety. So, Um, but I do know that when he gave me that final assessment and he said, you know, I was going into his office to hear the results, and he told me it was a huge weight lifted.
yeah,
And it was like I could breathe, like a big, huge breath entered into my lungs is the only way I can describe it. And I laid out a really long sigh. Not
yeah,
of, like, being tired or being stressed out or being annoyed, just relief, you know?
mhm,
And I looked at him, and the first thing I said was, "Can you help me figure out who I am? Because I don't know who I am, and I know that's part of my problem." He goes, "That's exactly what your problem is, and yes, we're
yeah.
gonna we're gonna help you figure it out." And he's like, "And you're not gonna figure it out in a year. You're gonna be in an ever-changing process of finding out who you are." So,
What a great
that
message.
yeah, yes. So it was relief, and I actually cried because I was relieved that I finally had answers that made sense.
I
So
think I've put it before, how do you know yourself when you've always pretended to be somebody else?
mhm.
It's very and it's I think it's something to hard to understand if you haven't lived through it when, really you're in survival mode your whole life, like, just trying to figure it out, make it work. And I was the same where it was in high school. I did a little more of like, was my just kind of doing what I wanted, and even early into college. And then it became very apparent to me that if I was going to do something with my life, there needed to be a big change where I needed to like change who I was to like fit into where I was going. And yeah, I've been doing that my whole life as well. So like the um when the diagnosis comes, it is a huge sense of relief because you feel like it feels like you put something down, right? Like you've been carrying something and you can put it down. But then there's the unpacking. Like you put the luggage down, but then you have to unpack it
Yeah,
forever.
exactly.
It's like
It's
but in
like
Mary
you're
Poppins when her
moving
bag
that
is like never empty.
you've lived yes, you've lived somewhere for like 40 years and you having to unpack everything. You know what I mean? Like it's oh yeah. But definitely, yeah, like Mary Poppins taking all the things out of the bag
Yeah.
for
Do you ever
sure.
find like how has your reaction to it or your feelings about the diagnosis changed over time? Because I know it's like there's definitely um, that feeling of peace, but then there's also a lot of other feelings that come up. How has that changed over time?
I've definitely learned to give myself a lot of grace, a lot of grace. And for me, sometimes, well, yeah, sometimes during my journey, I have had a lot of feelings of frustration
Yeah.
because one of the things that has affected me the most and has my entire life is executive functioning.
Mhm.
And when you throw in the ADHD, my executive functioning is horrible, horrible.
Mhm.
And I can find it very frustrating. And I find myself saying, why do I have these struggles? Why do I have to have ADHD? Why do I have to be autistic? Why can't I just do the dishes like everybody else? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I can get very, very frustrated and sometimes even angry that I have these struggles and I'm 50 years old and I'm
Yeah.
still figuring life out and I'm still having struggles.
Mhm.
But then I have to remember, you're strong. You're a strong person and do what you can do today. And just remind myself that that will be there tomorrow and it's not the end of the world. And the other part of my journey, I still feel some of it is self-induced, and that is I feel very isolated a lot.
Yes.
Because especially when I meet new people, I always get anxiety when I meet new people because when they find out my diagnosis, the first thing they say is, "You don't look autistic." And I'm like, "Well, what does that look like? What do
Do
you
I
mean?"
smell autistic?
I mean, and apparently, what I've learned since living here is that, I've actually made a couple of friends, Claire, like in the three-dimensional world. I'm very proud of myself.
That's
And,
awesome.
and that autism looks very different to a lot of people.
Yes.
And I just didn't fit that person's definition, which is why they asked that. And they
Right.
weren't asking me like in an assaulting way. They were asking like they were surprised and shocked. And then I've kind of got I don't know about you, Claire, but I script.
Mhm.
I never knew what scripting was until 2 years ago, but I do. I script. And I'm like, my go to response when I get that question is never without fail is, well, give it a minute. You'll see after you get to know me. And usually that stumps them. They don't know how to respond to that,
I might
right?
steal that.
Give it a minute and you'll see. If you get to know me, you'll see.
Even before my
So,
diagnosis, I used to tell people, I didn't understand, like, why I would have trouble. I mean, I dated, but, like, I always when I was single, I'd be like, "If I could just keep my mouth shut." Like, I feel like I could probably find a boyfriend. It's really sad to talk about now, but now I realize that I was, like, basically talking about, like, if I could just suppress all of my autistic traits for a while, then maybe this could work out for me, and, yeah, the scripting and the suppressing traits, and then when you meet new people, I think after diagnosis too, when you meet new people, it's uh, well, I don't know if I mind meeting new people. It can be nerve wracking, but at least they're starting at that page with you. I
Mhm.
struggle more when I see people from my past and then I disclose to them that I got diagnosed. I think because that brings up a lot of memories, like, of my relationship with that person from the past,
Mhm.
and what our relationship was like, and things I may have said and behaviors I may have had, where now I know it was autism, and I don't know if I'm embarrassed or I'm just still processing that. So, yeah, I struggle more with meeting people I haven't talked to for a few since pre-diagnosis. I don't know about you, do you like, sometimes I look at my life, like, I usually look at my life, like, pre and post diagnosis.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely do. Mhm. Absolutely. And I do
Well,
struggle with some of that too as well, Claire. And, but only with the people that I felt like I had a close relationship, which wasn't very many people.
yeah,
A lot of the people that I went to high school with that reconnected with me through Facebook when they found out, obviously they found out about my diagnosis because it's right there on my Facebook account. It says in my little bio that, I'm autistic with ADHD, figuring out life. And they reconnected with me. And as soon as they saw that, they were like, wow, that explains so much of our high school years together.
yeah.
And these were the people that I didn't feel close to. Like I have a ton of acquaintances, but very few friends, which can be a
Yes.
blessing in disguise. So those people, it really didn't surprise them. My best friend from high school, she had a lot of questions, and but she was very accepting. It made sense for her as well. I didn't have a hard time with people really not accepting my diagnosis that I went to high school with. I'm finding the opposite, that I have a hard time with people who didn't grow up with me, who have a hard time accepting that I'm autistic, because they're like,
Mm,
well, you speak so well and you smile all the time. Well, yeah, I smile all the time because that's what's expected of me,
right.
right? Um, because I can be overly dramatic. So I save my drama for the house.
Mhm.
So I do. And if I don't have the energy to people, I don't go to events.
Yes. Well, you talked about, isolation, which I know is a really big thing in the autistic community and the reason why so many autistic people are drawn to online communities. Um, do you find that isolation, it can be a good thing for you? Because I know that for me, I need a lot of time alone, but then I also do wanna spend time with people sometimes, but it does take so much of my energy. Um, like, how do you balance that, do you think?
Um, I I struggle with balancing it. Um,
Same.
I say I don't. I do. My goodness, if I'm the one that ends up outliving my spouse, I can tell you right now, I will be the old lady with all the yarn and a dog, and I'd be perfectly happy, I think. Um, I am just such an extreme introvert. So balancing out is hard. I can go really well for a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months, and then I'll uh, couple that I have like 2 friends here, and I'll get a message that says, "Are you okay? Don't pull away. Don't pull away from me." And it's not
Mm,
pulling away from them. It's just I just can't. It's not I don't want to be around. I just can't. I don't have the energy to do all the things that they want
mm.
to do. Um, I'm a homebody, man. I just like getting in my I get off work and I'm at work and I'm like, man, I got 1 more hour. I can go home and crochet.
Yeah, I feel the same. Don't worry if we over each other. It's just part of autistic people talking. Am I right?
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
delayed processing. I'm surprised the entire interviews aren't always just talking over each other.
I do. I all the time in my lives, any on my videos that I upload, I'm constantly doing the thing.
I
But yeah,
really
so
struggle when I'm editing my videos. I edit a lot of the ums out, and then I feel like when people watch me live, they must be like, "Oh, why does she talk with so many ums?" It's like, "Oh, I'm just cutting them out wherever I can to make myself seem more I don't know, professional." I just say a lot. Sorry, guys. It's work. The wheel is spinning. Okay,
the
it's loading.
processing thing. I always say that it's my mouth trying to catch up with my brain, or my brain trying to catch up with my mouth. One or the other.
As far as friendships, I wanted to ask you, additionally, I know that before my diagnosis, I always wondered why, as you said, I knew something was different about me. Again, different isn't really the right word. I know you get that, but something other about me. But I also noticed things like other people have close friendships and I don't.
Yeah.
Um, I had like acquaintances. I always had friends in high school. I'd have one closer friend. But if I like, what's the best way to put it? Like, I always felt like, well, nobody's gonna ask me to be in their wedding. Maybe would be a good like nobody. I don't hang out with people all the time. I don't make plans with people. Especially friends I don't see, I struggle to keep in contact with. Did you feel like that as well? Like, that was one of my main things in the
Mhm.
when I was getting a diagnosis, that was one of my main things that the doctor asked me about, and it hit me like a ton of bricks because I really had never thought about it before, like how autism might be affecting my relationships with other people. I'd always just thought about it how it was affecting me directly.
Yeah, I that's me to a T, and still is actually. And I'm working on it, but there are times when someone will say I'm their bestest friend, but I don't feel like that. They're connected to me, but I feel no connection to them. I'm just a really good listener.
Mm, mhm.
And it's like, and they struggle. They're like, they want they want me to be able to talk to them like they share with me all their deep thoughts and feelings and things that are going on with their life. And they can't figure out, well, why isn't Niese sharing with me about her life and what she's struggling? Case in point, when my dad just passed away, I had people who consider me their good friend, and they're like, why aren't you talking to me? We know you got to be going through some rough stuff right now. And it's just, I don't think to talk to them. I just don't think
Exactly, yeah.
about it. It's like it's not in my thoughts to do. And it's not because I'm not their friend. It's like there's a disconnect there.
Don't do you feel like
So
it's like, don't share your burdens with other people? Because I feel like growing up, it was a lot of I don't I wouldn't say I had, like, a terrible childhood or anything, but I did have the, you know drama queen, overly sensitive, like, there was a lot of that. So I just and also, like, oversharing became an issue for me.
Mhm.
Um, Oversharing to people who, like, you shouldn't like, I really struggled with, like, tiers of people. Like, I didn't understand that there were some people you don't talk to things about, you don't talk things through with, and then other people that you do, like, circle of trust kinda thing, private
Yeah.
information.
Mhm.
I now I can't remember. Niese, I just lost my train of thought. It the train dropped me off
Don't
in the
burden
middle of a
people.
field.
Don't burden other people with your
Yeah, yeah, so, like, I learned to not share it with other people maybe? I don't know how to explain it, like
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like I'm an oversharer too, and I have that same problem with the whole tier of people. And I automatically just trust people when I shouldn't, and so I kinda don't share anything because I
well, I think
can't
you
figure
learn to
out,
because you get
okay,
burned.
where's the line?
Yeah.
Where's the line? Um, and so there's some information I'm like, "Okay, let me," my therapist said, "Okay, until you get the knack of it and you get the hang of it, write a list of things you're willing to share with just anybody, and everything else is off limits for now."
Mhm.
I never got to the second part of the therapy because I moved to Montana. So I have a hard time knowing when it's okay to share, and even if it's okay to share, how much of it to share.
Right. Exactly.
So I just, to save myself the anguish, I just don't share.
Yeah, I get that. Thank you for talking, through that with me. I think, you know, a lot of people who are listening struggle with friendship, and that's one of the big things I get comments about. I don't know about you on your autism videos, but it's how do I make friends? How do I communicate with friends? What does that look like? I always felt like I would like I'm doing quotes right now, make a friend, but then like how do you keep them? And what is that relationship supposed to look like? And since my diagnosis, I've learned friends for the first time, and that's been very interesting. Like you mentioned that you finally have a few in-person friends, and so do I. Like I've been slowly growing my friend group to in-person friends, and that's been really bananas to me because for a long time I just wouldn't unless we were I guess going out somewhere, I just didn't have friends that I talked to or friends that I checked in with. Um, but now I've changed the way I communicate or identified what works best for me, and that's how I do my friendships. So I know that for me, like I'm not gonna call people, but I can commit to like if I remember, I can like every few weeks I might sit down and go, "Oh, I haven't checked in with my friends," and then like text every single friend and check in with them.
Do you find that you do one friend at a time better? Because I do. I hyper focus on that one friend, and then I realize, "Oh, I forgot about this friend." And so I have to shift from this friend, and now I've gotta focus on this friend for a while.
Yes, but then in the past, absolutely, but now I feel like I've been learning more of a balance. But then my issue is I feel like I'm not getting close enough to the one like any one friend.
Yeah.
But then I also don't wanna, only have one person to share things with, I guess. So I understand what you're talking about, where it's like your one focus where they become almost a special interest.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I've definitely struggled with that, with people in my life. Now I try to, keep things more balanced. Would you mind if we kind of switched topics and talked a little bit about your social media experience?
Oh, sure. We
Okay.
can talk about that.
So why did you choose to start and share your journey online? and why a YouTube channel? You mentioned that you started with things when you were going through the diagnosis of your son. So why a YouTube channel?
It shifted because my sister-in-law said, "You have a story to share, you should share it." And I'm like, "No one's gonna wanna listen to me. I'm just middle-aged lady. Who wants to listen to what I have to say? My life is not exciting." Um, but she convinced me to, and so I did some pretty in-depth topics that I struggle with. One of them was executive functioning. The other one was 9 senses. We have 9 senses, not 7, you guys. Check out that video.
I'm
We
learning.
have 9 senses, not 7. I did one on that, and then especially for those of us who have sensory overload, which I have a lot.
Mhm.
And then emotional support pets. I did one on how important it is to have an emotional support animal if you are able to have one, and what our dogs meant to us and how it helps. And then it naturally went over because, my special interests kicked in. I'm like, one thing I love to talk about is my special interests because I can talk all the day long about my special interests. So that made YouTube a little easier for me. And I have a huge special interest in dolls and stuff. And then one day I was after I had surgery. Um, I'm like, I wonder if I can crochet. I know I crocheted. I crocheted one blanket in high school without anyone teaching me. I wonder if I could do it again. And so I'm like, I'm on YouTube. Why not? And that here we are. And as far as why, um, it's kind of my social outlet. And it's actually teaching me how to kind of communicate in I call it the three-dimensional world. In the real world, it's teaching me how to communicate a little bit better. Um, and it also keeps me from isolating too much.
Mhm.
Um, and then I thought, well, I'm an accountant by trade. So I'm not an entrepreneur by any means. I like being a worker bee, so to speak. Um, but I said, I bet you there's other people like me that just need a place to hang out.
Yeah.
So my channel shifted. I still share a lot about my autism experience, but I share it while I'm doing things that make me feel comfortable, things that I consider my therapy, like crocheting. Um, and now my YouTube channel literally is a hangout spot. That's what it is. And I always tell people in my lives and even in my regular videos, I always tell people, look, you guys, I don't do patterns, I don't design, I don't teach. If you want a place to hang out, that's what my place is. Come to my house and just you can hang out here and you have a safe place to hang out. And so that's it. My YouTube channel is the hangout spot.
I
That's
love
pretty much
coming
what it
to
is.
your live streams. I think they're very chill. You have on some really nice people as guests, and it's always just about relaxing and enjoying yourself and not taking things too seriously. So Saturday mornings, if I remember, I'm always there.
I work very hard to keep it that way. I did have to take a break though. One thing
That's
about
okay.
social media is I'm still trying to learn balance. And when you get on the live, it's really easy just saying hi to every single person, an hour goes by just in hellos.
Yeah,
And I was going way over my energy level, and I am experiencing a YouTube burnout right now. And so I took the next 2 weeks off to rest.
good for you. I think that that's completely fine. It's rough with the algorithm because it doesn't really allow for that.
Mhm.
But if you need to take a break, that's the most important thing is your own health. For me, I I try to do, like, a mix of things so I don't get burnt out, but, like, even now, um, I've definitely had to take a step back for the past few weeks. Like, I put out things here and there, but being able to identify that you're struggling, I mean, social media, YouTube, being online is difficult anyway,
Yeah,
um, but then navigating it as a neurodiverse person is pretty it can be pretty heavy at times.
it can.
And
It
I
can.
wanted to tell you, I I know you have, like, a limit. I'm the same way. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I've had conversations with other people, and even when I do a live stream, you might see people in my comments say, like, "Claire, it's been an hour."
Mhm.
Um, because I struggle with, you're doing it, you're feeling great, it's been an hour, I'm like, "Let's go longer, let's talk for a few hours and just hang out." But I find that after an hour is when I start like, if I stop at, like, 2 hours, then I'm like, "Why did I do that? What did I say? Did I share too much? Did I" It's too much for me after an hour, even
For
if I
me,
feel good in the moment.
yeah, absolutely. I call it, social media hangover is what I call it,
Yeah.
and then I'm no good for sometimes the rest of the night.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually just
So,
crash, like,
yeah,
right afterwards.
absolutely.
And,
Totally correct.
live streaming is a different animal
It is.
than doing a video. A video, it's like your own time, your own thing, and then a live stream, when you put in that extra element of, like, hosting, and then you can't just sit there. You have to be
Mm-mm.
talking the whole time.
Yeah. Well, and you have different types of people that come into your chat, and there's some people that are more demanding than others of your attention,
Mhm.
and it's hard to balance all that out, and then you go through the thing. My biggest thing is, "Oh my gosh, how many people did I miss in the chat?" I don't want people to feel like they're being ignored. But when you get to a certain point in YouTube, it is physically impossible to be able to be caught up in the chat the entire time and not miss something. Like, you're gonna miss something, and, that's what I struggle with because I hate missing a comment, or I hate missing someone who came in and I did not say hi to them. I have a uncontrollable need to say hi to every single person by name, and when you get to a certain point of subscribers in YouTube, and you get a certain point of however many people coming into your lives, it's physically impossible to say hi to every single person.
Oh, absolutely, I completely get that. I'm glad, though, that you're giving, I've been very inspired recently by other autistic creators. Anytime I see an autistic creator set a boundary, I get very inspired. Like, even with, scheduling the podcast, or anytime somebody's like, "This is what I need." Other autistic people, giving me their boundaries. I really get excited and champion that because I know how difficult it is for us to do that.
Mhm.
And I know what it's like to be like, I need to set this boundary, but I'm too afraid to do it. Or what if I let people down? Or there's so many different things. So when somebody's like, here's my boundary, I'm like, let's do it. You want to do this? Let's go. Okay. You don't want to talk about this topic? Okay. What else? What else are your bound? And it's really good for me because sometimes, I think it can be isolating. You think you're the only person who needs to set the boundaries, right? But
Right,
actually,
right.
all people need to set their own boundaries.
Yeah.
We shouldn't feel bad about doing that. We need to really, um, sorry, Niese, I just keep looking at you. I'll probably keep this in, but just because we're both dressed the same and you kind of look like my actual sister, it just makes me so happy. Anyway, it makes me so I'm just having the best time. Just like
We're just on the same wavelength this morning, apparently.
I'm so happy. What were we talking about?
Boundaries.
Boundaries. Yes. So boundaries, they're important. Welcome to Autistic People Talking. We're trying. We'll just change the tag change the tagline. Yeah, boundaries are so important. How do you
Are.
how I mean, as far as when you have experienced like this new, I'm sure it's maybe newer to you about like being comfortable with boundaries. How has that been for you? Do you feel good about it? Do you feel nervous about it?
I feel nervous about it. I just had to upload a very difficult video last week. It's called A Message from My Porch. And I had to set
Oh, I
some really
watched it. I
you
sat down,
saw
I was
that?
like, "Give me the tea." I thought you were just so you know, everyone can go watch that video where she's like, "Here's what I need to do to set some boundaries." I was
Yeah,
very inspired by that, Niese, so you did a really
girl.
good job. It wasn't overstepping at all.
I redid that video I don't know how many times. I really did because I didn't want it to come across as being negative, but it was boundaries that had to be set for my mental health.
Yeah,
Um, because when you get on social media and you become a creator, people connect with you and they want to be
yes.
friends with you.
What do they call
And
it? Parasocial relationships? Is that what they
yeah,
call it? Yeah.
I think so.
Where
And
where the person who does you don't know the person, but because they know you so well, they feel that they have a relationship that maybe you don't actually have.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And sometimes they share things with you that you don't want shared with you.
Mhm.
And you know, it's just there's a lot of social dynamics that go behind the scenes of YouTube that I did not realize.
Yeah.
And I've had to I mean, I don't do good in the gray world anyway. Like my
Yeah.
mind is like this or this and all this in between, I don't navigate well. And social social dynamics is definitely something I don't navigate well. And if I get put in a position where I feel uncomfortable, my husband is so smart. He knows me so well. I've just been struggling with that, with the social dynamics behind the scenes of YouTube. And my husband looked at me, he goes, "You're looking for an exit, and there is not one. You're gonna have to come up with some boundaries and
Wow.
draw that line in the sand and make your
Yeah.
message clear." And I'm like, "How do you know I'm looking for an exit?" He goes, "Because I know you. It's fight or flight, right?" Well, I'm the one that runs. So so it was definitely something I had to work through. I'm still nervous about it, but and then I had to remind myself, not everyone's going to be happy with what you have to say, and you're going to have to be okay with that. You're going to have to be okay with that. And if people leave, they leave. But I had to set those boundaries, and it was the first time that I set very clear boundaries since being on social media.
I'm
Now I
proud
did
of you.
kind of like it like a year ago, but my husband's like, "You're way too vague. You're way too vague. You're you you were not clear enough. You're going to need to make it like crystal clear." He's like, "You normally say what's on your mind. Why are you having such an issue?" Because it's YouTube. Right?
Don't you
And you
feel
don't
like
want to
when
hurt
you Oh,
people's
sorry.
feelings. You don't want to hurt people's feelings, you know what I mean? And
I did not realize, and probably talked about this too much already, but like just so people who are listening understand it, and I hope that you understand too, like the social aspect of YouTube, I I would say it's probably for autistic creators, um, the most difficult part. I think most autistic creators, when they started, assumed, I know that I did, that you would just be shouting into the void and there wouldn't be the feedback, the I'm so grateful for our community and I love our community. I'm so grateful for my supporters. So I want to be clear on that. But I did not expect that that was going to be a part of what I was doing. And navigating that as an autistic person is very, very, very difficult. And I hear that from other
it
big
is.
and small autistic creators because even though we're putting videos out, we're still, even though we're putting videos out, we're interacting with people. I think it's easy to forget that we're still autistic, and when people, uh, treat us like we're not, or have expectations like we're not, um, when we're doing YouTube stuff, like there's like a neurotypical maybe expectation of what it's gonna be like, that's really hard,
It
and
is.
you know, setting boundaries it for an autistic person to set those boundaries, it's very difficult because you want to serve the community in a way that people feel seen and heard because we haven't felt seen or heard. But then you have to balance that with I I personally cannot take other every single person who writes me and tells me about their life. Like I cannot take out on all those burdens, and every single comment that gets made, I cannot take on every one of those burdens, and that's hard for me because I it's not that I don't want to or that I don't care about people, but it's just it's too much,
It's a
and
lot. It's a lot.
and, so many people who are listening right now have been very understanding of that, but some people aren't, and some
Yeah.
people, they can't understand why they're not getting your time, um, or, uh well, maybe I'm overstating, like, I'm not saying that it happens to me all the time or that I'm talking about a specific person, I'm not. Just in general, navigating the social aspect, the people aspect of YouTube as an autistic creator is almost impossible.
Yeah. I agree.
I had trouble not, I've only recently been like, "Okay, I'm gonna let the comments go." I don't have to even when I set boundaries months ago, I still would get through all the comments, even though I was like, "I'm not gonna answer all the comments." It would just be like, "Well, now I just don't answer them right away." Um, or now I just, everyone needs to have, like, a little heart on it, or so the fact that the past few weeks I've, like, stepped back from, like, feeling like I need to answer everything, that's a really big deal for me.
That is. Congratulations, because 'cause I'm not there yet.
But, like, then in my head, I'm like, "But I want to go and answer them
I
all."
know. I feel like I have to make sure every single person knows I've read what they had to say. And I don't know about you, Claire, but I'm an empath. So, um, other people's energy affects me, and
Yes, yeah.
words affect me more than they would somebody else.
So when people write you
Like my
about very deeply personal things, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot because I feel it. I feel it. So people who say that autistics aren't what's oh my gosh, can't feel empathy, it's 100% false.
No, I think we feel it.
We feel it very intensely. We may not articulate it very well, but it comes out in other ways. And for me, if I get a lot of it, an influx of it, because it comes in waves,
Right,
especially if you're sharing something that has happened to you and someone can relate. Usually when are wanting to let you know, hey, I understand, I relate with you because da 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 happened to me. You get a lot of that, which is great in that it reminds me, okay, I'm not alone. They get it. They've been through it. But at the same time, I'm feeling all the feels. and
exactly.
I get overly stimulated from all the feeling. And then I go through like a burnout kind of situation, which is not good. Not
Yeah,
good. So,
I tend to, like, like, if I'm losing sleep or needing to
mhm.
talk to other people about, like, how do I handle this, that can be a lot when being on YouTube and making the videos, and that's already a lot. So to add that secondary piece, I'm just proud I'm proud of you for getting to the point where you're ready to make a transition. I think it's a big deal. There's a lot that happens on YouTube, especially in the beginning, um, where you're like, "I don't wanna do anything wrong." Everything I thought that would, be necessary for a YouTube channel anyway was wrong. So, I
We're
thought
all
it was
just
gonna all
flying
look one
blind on
way.
YouTube. Just
What?
flying blind on So we're all just flying blind on YouTube. I
Yeah,
always
I
tell my
mean
friends, they'll hear things and I won't hear things. They're like, "Where were you, Niese? You were there. You were there in the live." I'm like, "I was just floating in my own little bubble, crocheting on something. I didn't see anything," or I miss a lot. I do. I miss a lot. I don't know about you, but being a moderator is really hard for me sometimes. I have to be selective on who I moderate for because I float in my bubble and then the ADHD brain takes over and all of a sudden I'm missing stuff going on in the chat and I'm supposed to watch the chat.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
for that reason, I don't ever ask to do moderating because it's like, that's a
it's a
I
responsibility.
it's a job,
It
and,
is.
I so appreciate those who are out there who are willing to do that, and I know that there are a lot of people who watch your channel, any channel, who they step up and they're like, "I want to do that." But that's like a whole job where you have to
It
really pay
is.
attention,
Mhm.
and uh, I don't want to. So
Yeah, and it is 100% okay to say you don't want to. I've actually had to some channels that I'm very loyal to that I loved. You just have that favorite TV show. Like my favorite
connection, yeah, like a
TV
connection,
show was
special
like
connection.
Friends. Um, that's funny. My favorite TV show was Friends. Very obsessed with that show. I watch it every single day. But it's just like that. You have your favorite creators that you constantly want to watch. And a couple of them, because I'm there all the time, they gave me a wrench. They didn't ask, but they just here's a wrench. And it's an honor to get that because they're trusting you with their channel, right?
But in
But
my mind,
I did have to
if they didn't ask and they just gave it to you, I don't view that as a responsibility.
so
I don't view it as a I
mm,
view it as, "Oh, well, thanks for giving me a wrench." If I happen to see a troll or something, then I'm like, "Okay, I'll take it off."
yeah.
But if we haven't had a conversation about it, I'm like, I'm techni you can give me a wrench, I'm not doing anything."
No, but I did. I had to reach out to a couple of people and politely ask them to take the wrench back because I
Yeah.
knew that I couldn't be there in the way that they would need me to be there because I know my limits.
Do you feel like since, your diagnosis, you found it easier to say no to things?
Um, Not until recently. This year, it's only been this year that I'm learning to start to say no to things and be okay with saying no. So that is definitely something I still struggle with.
I
Still,
kind of get a thrill now
so
because it's like,
do
"Ooh,
you?
I'm being so bad." That's how I feel. No. No, I will not do that. No, I don't have the yeah, laying down boundaries can be, a lot of to me, it's like a lot of fun because I'm so when you grow up saying yes to absolutely everything, because it's like, I don't know what boundaries are, to be able to say, like, "No, I can't do that right now." It feels good. But you know how it is when you're autistic, like, how do I wanna say it? Like, I think it's pretty funny. Like, anytime anyone ever cancels plans, I'm like, "That is my love language right there."
Me
Like,
too.
they're like, "Oh, did I'm sorry, I
Dude.
need to cancel." And I'm like, "No, no." But inside, I'm like, "Yes, yes, I just wanna be alone. I'm having such a nice time." What we usually do to wrap things up, and thank you again for being on our show today, is do you have anything coming up on your channel or anything that we should know about?
I am going to be doing some videos on my Tunisian crochet journey. I'm very excited to do that. and basically just some new things I'm gonna be learning in the fiber arts. And then I plan to get Porch Chat is planned to be back on schedule next Saturday.
Mhm.
And that's every week. And then I try to do a members live at least once a month. I scheduled it, but then I canceled it because I was taking 2 weeks off. So I have to reschedule that. But now it's just business as usual over at my channel. And you just come over, hang out, and chill. It's just we chillaxing over at my house.
I like it a lot. And
So
what about a message to our audience? If there's somebody who's listening who is also on the autism spectrum, what is like one thing that you would want them to know?
probably my slogan. I'll explain my slogan. And at the end of every video, I always say, "Dare to be you, dare to be different." And what that means is embrace who you are. Don't be afraid of it. Don't apologize for it. You are unique and special in your own way, and it is okay. And if someone doesn't appreciate you for who you are, that's okay. You don't need to socialize with that person. You can put all your energy into those who do appreciate your uniqueness and your specialness. And just love yourself. Love yourself a lot, because I think that's one thing that I know I lack as an autistic is loving myself
Mm.
enough and reminding myself that I am enough and you are enough. And so I guess that's what I'll leave you guys with.
Thank you, Niese. Niese, you have been a wonderful guest. I want to encourage everyone to go check out Niese's channel. If you enjoy watching an autistic lady do yarn crafts in a cabin in Montana, then you have come to the right place.
I do
So please,
nature videos too. I do
pardon?
nature videos. I do nature videos every once in a while too. If any of you like to be outdoors, you can check some of that out too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being on the show, and we'll bid you adieu, and we'll see everyone next time.
Thank you
Bye.
for having me. Bye, everybody.
Bye.